The phone wouldn't stop ringing on the 20th floor of Peaksoft, a software company in downtown Seattle. Ethan Carter sat in the conference room, his gray eyes locked on the laptop screen, fingers flying over the keyboard. Crisp gray shirt, tight red tie. He looked like a perfectly tuned machine. Sharp, cold, and precise. But today, his mind wandered. His 9-year-old son, Jake, had been talking about summer camp all week, voice bubbling with excitement. Ethan knew he had to do something. Something to show his son that he was more than just a workaholic father. "Ethan, are you listening?" His assistant's voice broke in. He nodded absently, unlocking his phone with one hand while typing with the other. A quick search. Elite Summer Academy, Colorado. That was the prestigious camp a co-worker had recommended. Coding classes, horseback riding, all the elite stuff. The website loaded. Clean design. A banner showing the Rockies and neatly uniformed kids. "Perfect," he muttered, barely glancing at the details. He clicked Register Now, filled in Jake's info, paid with his card, and forwarded the confirmation email to Jake's mother, his ex-wife of 3 years. Then, just like that, he returned to the meeting, completely unaware he'd just made a huge mistake. 3 days later, Ethan was behind the wheel of his shiny black Ford SUV, cruising along winding roads in Oregon toward Pinewood, a quiet little town nestled among towering redwood trees. Jake sat in the back seat, clinging to his Spider-Man backpack, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Dad, do you think camp will be fun?" he asked in a clear, eager voice. Ethan smiled at him in the rearview mirror. "You'll learn a lot, Jake. Top-tier skills." He pictured his son in a sleek white tracksuit, building robots or galloping across a field, activities he believed would shape Jake into a high achiever, just like him. But as they turned onto a narrow dirt road leading to Green Pine Summer Camp, Ethan felt a twinge of doubt. There was no grand iron gate, no LED welcome sign, just a wooden archway carved with the words, "Green Pine, where nature speaks." The scent of pine filled the air. Birds chirped cheerfully. Jake bounced in his seat, eyes wide. "It's beautiful, Dad." Ethan frowned, parked, and stepped out. He saw a few gray canvas tents, kids running barefoot across the grass, carrying sticks and baskets of vegetables. This wasn't Colorado. This wasn't Elite Summer Academy. "Hi there," a warm voice called. Ethan turned to see a woman in her early 30s, blonde hair tied loosely, wearing a green flannel shirt and jeans. Her smile was easy, her green eyes catching the sunlight like leaves in summer. "I'm Emily Harper, manager here at Green Pine. You must be Jake Carter's dad?" Ethan nodded stiffly. "I think there's been a mistake. I signed him up for a camp in Colorado. Not this." He gestured toward the tents, disappointment plain on his face. Emily tilted her head, still smiling. "Colorado? Oh, sounds like there's been a mix-up. This is Pinewood, Oregon, our nature camp. No one's ever ended up here by mistake before." She chuckled gently, not mocking, but Ethan still felt his face heat up. He pulled out his phone, checked the confirmation email. Sure enough. "Green Pine Summer Camp, Pinewood, Oregon." He'd clicked the wrong link in a rush. "I need to cancel," he said briskly, his tone clipped. "This isn't where I want Jake to be." But before he could get back in the car, Jake had already leapt out, running to join the kids on the grass. Laughing, stick in hand, he shouted, "Dad, I want to stay here!" Ethan froze. Emily stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "You can cancel, of course, but why not stay a day? Jake looks so happy. Here, we teach kids to love nature, to be independent, and to live with intention. Aren't those important lessons too?" Ethan looked at her, feeling oddly challenged. I don't need my son learning how to pitch tents or pick vegetables. He needs real-world skills, not dreamy stuff like this." Emily didn't respond right away. She just smiled. "Sometimes the real world could use a little dreaming, Mr. Carter. But that's up to you." Then she turned and walked away to help the other kids, leaving Ethan standing there, unsure of what to do next. Ethan was about to call Jake back when his phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. "Road from Pinewood is blocked due to a fallen tree after last night's storm. No vehicle access for at least 1 to 2 days." He looked down the road, now sealed off by a massive pine tree sprawled across the path. He exhaled sharply, fingers tightening around the phone. There was no way out. He'd have to stay at this strange little camp, at least until the road cleared. He turned toward Emily. She was showing Jake how to tie a tent knot, her voice as soft as a summer breeze. Jake was beaming, a smile Ethan hadn't seen in a long time. Not at home, not between homework and screen time. He walked over, tone clipped. "Is there anywhere I can charge my laptop?" Emily looked up, eyes sparkling. "Nearest spot would be the coffee shop in town, but reception here is spotty. You could try under that pine tree. Quiet and shady." She pointed with a hint of mischief in her smile. Ethan didn't answer, just gave a curt nod. He felt out of place here, surrounded by the earthy scent of damp soil, the rustle of leaves, and Emily's effortless calm. She radiated a warmth he wasn't used to, as if she belonged to this place, and he was just passing through. Jake came running up, tugging on his arm. "Dad, will you stay here with me?" Ethan looked down at his son, then across the field at Emily, her figure bathed in the golden glow of sunset. He sighed. Maybe, just for a day or two, he could endure this. The next morning, Ethan woke in the canvas tent Emily had prepared for him. Birds chirped enthusiastically outside, and rays of morning light filtered through the tall pines, striping the ground with gold. He sat up, rubbing his temples, the unfamiliar quiet pressing in. No alarm, no smell of Starbucks coffee. Just fresh, pine-scented air and the sound of children laughing in the distance. He reached for his laptop, but the battery had died the night before. "Great," he muttered, glancing around. No outlets, no Wi-Fi. He was completely cut off. Outside, Jake had already joined the other kids in the garden. Emily guided them with easy confidence. Ethan stepped out, cradling his now useless laptop, watching from afar. Jake, holding a small bucket, was busy pulling weeds, his face smudged with dirt but glowing with pride. "Dad, look!" Jake shouted, holding up a tiny potato. "I grew this!" Ethan raised an eyebrow, about to speak, but Emily beat him to it. "That's awesome, Jake. We'll roast it over the campfire tonight." She smiled at the boy, then glanced at Ethan with a look that seemed to say, "See? He's happy." Ethan didn't respond. He gave a slight nod and retreated to the base of a pine tree, opening his laptop even though there was nothing to do. But as the breeze rustled the leaves and the scent of earth filled his lungs, he found himself looking up. Greenpine wasn't like any summer camp he'd imagined. No strict schedules, no academic drills, just kids running barefoot, building tents, laughing. Emily moved among them like a natural guide, gentle, grounded, present. He couldn't deny it. She made it all look peaceful. All day, Ethan kept his distance. He didn't want to get pulled into this world. But Jake? Jake dove right in, learning knots, collecting leaves for crafts. By afternoon, he came running over with a pine branch bracelet in his hand. "Try it on, Dad. I made it for you." Ethan hesitated, then slipped it on. "Thanks, buddy," he said, a little awkwardly, Jake grinned and ran off. Ethan stared at the bracelet. How long had it been since his son smiled like that? As night fell, Green Pine glowed under the soft light of lanterns strung around the clearing. Ethan couldn't sleep. He stepped out of the tent and wandered toward the edge of the woods, breathing in the crisp, clean air. Crickets chirped in rhythm, and somewhere in the distance, a creek murmured softly. He stopped near a patch of wildflowers and spotted Emily, alone, watering a bed of yellow daisies. She wore a gray sweater, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, glowing faintly in the moonlight. She hadn't noticed him. Humming a gentle American folk tune, her voice was clear and sweet, like a stream winding through the forest. Ethan stood there, unsure of what to do. Finally, he cleared his throat and stepped forward. "It's late. Are you still working?" Emily jumped slightly, then smiled when she recognized him. "Oh, Mr. Carter. I like to water the flowers at night. They look fresher in the morning. Can't sleep?" Ethan shrugged, his hand stuffed in his pocket. "I'm just not used to this quiet." Emily nodded as if she understood what he wasn't saying. She set down her watering can, wiped her hands on her shirt. "Would you like something to drink? I made some homemade lemongrass tea. It's very soothing." Ethan was about to refuse, but then he nodded. "Thanks for making Jake feel so welcome yesterday. I didn't expect him to adapt so quickly." Emily smiled and led him over to a small wooden table near the main tent. She poured the tea from a ceramic pitcher, the scent of lemongrass gently filling the air. "Jake is a wonderful kid. He's smart, but he also needs space to breathe, don't you think?" Ethan took the cup, sipped, and felt a slow warmth spread through him. "I just want him to have a good future. Nature is nice, but it's not everything." Emily sat down across from him, her green eyes meeting his without judgment. "I used to think like you. I worked in advertising in San Francisco, always chasing deadlines, living in constant stress. Then I realized that if we keep chasing a good future, we might lose the present." She paused, a hint of sadness crossing her features. "I lost someone dear because of that lifestyle. Since then, I chose this place, so that kids don't grow up caged in invisible prisons." Ethan fell silent, his fingers tightening around the cup. Her words struck a chord. He remembered his father saying, "Success is everything, Ethan. Don't be weak." He'd lived by that, dragging Jake along with him. But Emily, could she really see right through him? He stood up abruptly. "Thank you for the tea. I should head back to my tent." Emily nodded without trying to stop him. "Sleep well, Mr. Carter." Ethan walked away with heavy steps. Back at the tent, he found Jake fast asleep, the pine bracelet still on his wrist. In his sleep, the boy mumbled, "I want to stay at camp all summer." Ethan sat down, looking at his son, a turbulent feeling rising inside him. Jake wanted to stay? With the woods, the canvas tents, and Emily? He lay back down, eyes fixed on the tent's ceiling. The wind outside whispered softly, but he wasn't ready to listen yet. On the third morning at Green Pine, the skies over Pinewood were overcast, with a light rain tapping on the canvas roof. The raindrops pattered on the nylon, blending with the sound of the wind through the towering red pines, creating a gentle, languid melody. Ethan Carter sat in his tent, laptop balanced on his lap, finally catching a weak 4G signal from a nearby town. He scrolled through dozens of emails from PeakSoft, and his assistant's urgent message caught his eye. "Our partner in Portland discovered a critical flaw in the software update. They demand a face-to-face meeting, or they'll cancel a $5 million contract." Ethan frowned, fingers flying over the keys. Arrange a car to pick me up today. He couldn't stay here any longer. The company was the fruit of his 10 years of hard work, and he wouldn't let it crumble just because he'd lost himself in the woods for a few days. Outside, Jake was playing in the rain with the other kids, his green hoodie soaked, yet his face radiated pure joy. Emily stood under a large pine, holding a striped umbrella, laughing as she shouted, "Watch out, everyone! Don't slip!" Ethan stepped out of the tent, his sleek black jacket buttoned up, voice firm. "Jake, come here." "I need to talk." Jake ran over, his wet hair clinging to his forehead, his brown eyes sparkling. "What's up, Dad? I'm having so much fun." Ethan sighed, his tone hardening. "I have to go back to Seattle today. There's an emergency at the office. You're coming with me." Jake froze, his smile fading. "But we just got here for 2 days. Do you really have to leave?" Ethan turned away, trying to avoid the disappointed look in his son's eyes. "This isn't the place for us, Jake. I'll find you another camp, one with computers and proper classes." Before he could continue, Emily approached, her voice gentle yet firm. "Mr. Carter, are you sure? Jake is really happy here. Don't just leave him behind." Ethan looked at her, a surge of irritation rising. "You don't understand. I have responsibilities that go far beyond this camp. Jake will be fine." Emily said nothing more, only staring at him with those deep green eyes that seemed to carry unspoken truths. Ethan ignored her, pulling Jake along to pack up. Inside, his heart was heavy, but he kept telling himself he was doing this for Jake's future. That afternoon, a black SUV from the company arrived to pick Ethan up. The road had finally been cleared after the rescue team removed the fallen tree. Jake sat silently in the back seat, clutching the pine bracelet he'd made for his dad, saying nothing. Ethan glanced at him through the rearview mirror and noticed the boy's red, puffy eyes, but he forced himself to stay composed. Just before the car pulled away, Emily walked up and handed Jake a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. "Plant them at home so you can remember Green Pine," she said with a soft smile. Jake nodded and whispered, "Thank you." Ethan gave Emily a polite nod, his voice cold. "I'll be back to pick him up soon." Emily didn't answer, just stood there, watching as the car disappeared into the woods, her figure growing smaller in the rain. 2 days later in Seattle, Ethan sat in a sleek, glass-walled conference room across from the partners from Portland. He explained the software bug, an issue in the payment system he might have caught if he hadn't been stuck in Pinewood. The partners agreed to extend the contract, but Ethan felt no relief. His phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "Jake has a slight cold from playing in the rain. He's okay, but he misses you." Ethan's grip tightened around the phone, a storm rising in his chest. He called immediately, his voice urgent. "Is he okay? Does he need a doctor?" Emily answered calmly. "Just a little flu. I gave him some syrup and let him rest, but Jake wants to talk to you." Ethan switched to video call. Jake's face appeared, his nose red, eyes watery. "Dad," he whimpered, "I want you to come back. I really like it here. Please don't leave again." Ethan couldn't speak. His throat tightened as he looked at his son, then at Emily behind him, gently placing a warm cloth on Jake's forehead. She didn't say anything, but her eyes reminded him of their conversation over tea, that sometimes chasing a better future meant losing the present. Back at Green Pine, Emily tended to Jake with natural tenderness. She made ginger tea and told him a bedtime story about a little bear lost in the Oregon woods, her voice as warm as a hug. Jake lay under the blankets, hugging the seed pouch, and whispered, "My dad's really smart, Miss Emily." "But he doesn't seem happy. He's always working." Emily smiled, stroking his hair. Your dad is trying to love you the best way he knows how. But maybe he's still learning." Jake's eyes lit up. "Do you think he'll come back?" Emily paused, then said softly, "If he realizes what matters more than work, then yes." Back in Seattle, Ethan ended the call, his thoughts spinning. He remembered all those evenings at home when Jake sat quietly with a programming book, or the times his son asked, "Will you come to my soccer game?" And he always said no, because of meetings. He used to believe success was the greatest gift he could give his child. But now, seeing Jake's tear-streaked face on a screen, he realized he was repeating his father's mistake, the man who missed Ethan's childhood chasing million-dollar contracts. His phone buzzed again, a message from a co-worker. "Ethan, you okay? The company won't fall apart if you take a few days off. Family comes first." Ethan looked out the window. Seattle was gray, rain falling endlessly, without the scent of pine or bird song in the air. He stood up and called his assistant. "Cancel tomorrow's meetings. I'm going back to Pinewood." The assistant sounded stunned. "But what about the partners?" Ethan cut her off. "I'm stepping back. My son comes first." He packed up, feeling a strange sense of peace. On his way to the car, he texted Emily, "I'll be there in the morning. Thank you for taking care of Jake." He hit send, stepped into the rain, and for the first time in a long while, felt like he was headed in the right direction. Early Thursday morning, Ethan drove back to Pinewood. The dirt road leading to Green Pine Camp now felt familiar. The scent of red pines drifted in through the window, and birdsong filled the air as if to welcome him back. When the SUV rolled to a stop at the wooden gate, Jake came running out, beaming, no trace of his cold left. "Dad," he shouted, launching himself into Ethan's arms. Ethan bent down and hugged his son tightly, warmth rushing through him. He looked up and saw Emily standing a few steps away, her green eyes glowing in the early light. "You came back," she said softly, a hint of surprise in her voice. Ethan smiled, no longer guarded. "Yeah, this time it's a real choice." Jake tugged him excitedly into camp, chattering non-stop about the past few days, how he'd learned to roast s'mores over the fire, how he caught a big orange butterfly. Ethan listened, not interrupting like he usually would. He looked around, the gray tents, the lush green field, the kids playing. They didn't feel foreign anymore. Emily walked beside them, quietly observing, her gaze saying more than words. She saw he was changing, and for the first time, Ethan wasn't resisting it. That day, Ethan joined the kids. He woke up early and followed Jake to a clearing where Emily was teaching them how to build a rope swing from wood and cord. He fumbled with the knots, dropping a wooden plank on his own foot. Jake burst out laughing, and Emily covered her mouth, trying not to. "It's okay, Mr. Carter," she said, stepping over to help him retie the knot. "Everyone's clumsy the first time?" Her hand brushed his, a fleeting touch, but it stopped him in his tracks. He looked at her, hair loose across her forehead, that soft smile glowing like sunlight on pine leaves. For the first time, he saw her not just as the camp director, but as someone he wanted to know better. That evening, they gathered for the weekend campfire. The flames crackled in the clearing, casting a warm glow over the children's faces. Jake sat next to Ethan, toasting marshmallows on a stick. Across the fire, Emily sat quietly, the flickering light dancing in her eyes. As the kids sang Sweet Home Alabama, she shared a story about her older brother, how he had died young from burnout in the finance world back in San Francisco. "I used to think I was headed down the same road," she said, her voice lowering. "But then I came here, and I realized happiness isn't something you chase. It's in moments like this, Her gaze swept across the circle and rested on Ethan. He was quiet for a moment, something shifting inside him. "I used to think success was everything," he said, voice husky. "I just wanted Jake to have what I didn't. But maybe what he really needs is for me to just be here." Jake looked up and wrapped his arms around his father's. "I like you better here than at the office," he said sweetly. Emily didn't say anything, but her smile and the look in her eyes said it all. That night, as the campfire dimmed and the stars came out, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. The last day of camp came too quickly. The kids were preparing for the farewell gathering, but Ethan wasn't ready to leave. He stood beside Emily at the edge of a small stream that cut through the camp, the water glinting under the amber light of dusk. "Are you going to disappear again?" she asked, half teasing, half serious. Ethan turned to her, earnest. "Number, I want to be here. With you, with Jake. If the company can't accept that, I'll find another way." Emily looked surprised, then smiled gently. "You've changed a lot, Mr. Carter." He stepped closer, his hand brushing lightly against hers. "Call me Ethan." The space between them disappeared. Beneath the golden sunset and the soft murmur of the stream, Ethan leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to Emily's lips. She kissed him back, tenderly, fully, as if they'd both been waiting for this moment all along. From across the field, Jake's voice rang out. "Dad kissed Miss Emily!" The boy came running, holding a drawing made with colored pencils, 3 figures standing in front of a tent, hand in hand. "This is my new family," Jake said, beaming. Ethan and Emily burst into laughter, exchanging a glance filled with warmth. Ethan knelt down, pulling Jake into a hug, then reached out for Emily. "Thank you," he whispered to her, "for showing me what really matters." Emily squeezed his hand, her voice soft. "Thank you for coming back." They stood there together at the edge of the stream, surrounded by towering red pines and bathed in the amber glow of dusk, an unspoken promise of a new life. Simpler, but full of love. The next morning, as the buses carried the children away from camp, Ethan didn't rush back to Seattle. He called his assistant and asked to work remotely for a while. "I need time for my family," he said, his voice steady. The assistant was surprised, but agreed. Jake ran around the camp, saying goodbye to his friends, while Emily stood beside Ethan, handing him a cup of lemongrass tea. "Will you stay a few more days?" she asked, eyes sparkling. "Maybe a few weeks," he replied, taking a sip and savoring the now familiar flavor. The final scene. Jake sitting outside their tent, carefully planting the sunflower seeds Emily had given him. He looked up, smiling at Ethan and Emily, who stood together, hand in hand. "I want every summer to be like this," Jake said. Ethan looked at Emily, then at his son, a rare smile breaking across his face. "I promise," he said. The wind picked up, rustling through the pine trees, as their journey of healing quietly came to a close.